People who have met their online friends. What made you instantly regret it? Met a girl I really liked on World of Warcraft, but she lived in another country. After a couple of vacations there it turned into a relationship. Made the decision to move and start a new life there with her. After living there for 4 months, I slowly realized she was crazy as hell. Huge mood swings paired with a lot of aggression. Ended up getting stabbed in the side by her while asleep. Needless to say, after getting out of the hospital I took the first plane back home. She's still in a psychiatric hospital. He got freakishly obsessive and possessive. Met online through a fandom. After a few years the fandom pretty much fell apart, but a handful of us stayed friends because we actually had a fair amount in common. D was very normal, the rest of the group seemed to love him. About 4 years after just being online mates we met in person. It went fine. We interacted a lot on Facebook and Instagram. I hit a really busy period in my life, but managed to squeeze in a Christmas get together at my place for my little group of friends, including D. After that my online activity decreased drastically due to being busy, and when I managed to get on Facebook I noticed that most of the group were no longer friends with D. Weird but whatever. I checked my messenger, and saw message after message after message asking why I wasn't responding, what was I doing, could we arrange a meetup, etc. I explained I was super busy, and it was also coming up to the anniversary of my mom's death, so just give me some time and we'll see about meeting up another time. He said, oh, yeah, I forgot about the anniversary, you can have that day, but I expect a response after. Duck that. I blocked him. So he sent email after email after email asking me, what is your ducking problem? What the duck do you think you're doing? Etc. So I blocked his email too. After 3 very peaceful weeks there was a knock on my door. It was D, and he had a 6-page letter detailing why we had to be friends. I shut the door, used an anonymous email thing to tell him if he contacted me again / showed up at my door I would call the police. Went on Facebook and told everyone, including the 2 remaining mutual friends, about it all, and could the mutuals not share anything about me / my life and actively discourage him from attempting to make contact. The friends who had long since unfriended him, started messaging me that they stopped talking to him because of how creepy he was being in PMs, about me always asking if they knew what I was doing, had I talked to them, was I seeing anyone, was I actually busy, because he was convinced I wasn't, etc. In return I told them how he'd been trying to convince me to stop being friends with them, because according to him they were all sorts of horrible things, and that they were incredibly jealous and hated how close he and I were. I assumed he was just butthurt because they stopped talking to him, so was just making up a bunch of crap about these people who had always been perfectly nice to me. One incredibly weird occurrence just before this all happened was me telling a mutual on Facebook that I was heading to the aquarium in London with my daughter. Mutual friend was also in London that day with their daughter, and maybe we could grab a coffee / let the kids play in the park for a bit. I checked my messages later that evening, and he was incredibly upset because he'd waited at Farringdon station exit for 2 hours so he could come to the aquarium too, and I didn't show up. We did not get off at that station, but one that was 2 stops after and closer to where we were going. I haven't heard a peep in over a year. He has apparently deleted his Facebook and Instagram, and thankfully just disappeared. Made a RuneScape friend and chatted on and off for several years. He ended up being nearish to my town, and we decided to get some food. Things were going great until a black man and white woman came in, and he whispered, completely seriously, I hate interracial couples. When I was 14 I had an online friend 2 states away who was 14. He and his mom took a trip to see me, and the first thing we did when we saw each other was run full speed at one another. Our heads bounced off each other and I chipped my tooth and broke his braces. I'm pretty sure his front tooth was also loose, and had to go to the dentist to fix it, lol. Do dating app people count? Because he told me he was a vampire within 10 minutes. Oh, I have a vampire story. My first boyfriend ever told me he was a vampire. Twilight was very popular at the time, and then asked if I would sacrifice my humanity to be a vampire too. I played around and was like, yeah sure, and then the ducker bit my neck. LMFAO. She flew in town to be a bridesmaid in my wedding. And she decided to cheat on her husband with one of the groomsmen and blame me for that. Because it was my wedding, so that clearly makes it my fault she was unfaithful. How dare you have a wedding on this, the day of my adultery. He catfished me. Always bragged about how he lost a bunch of weight and then looked like the before pictures he posted. Not that I personally cared, but he got a lot of online attention from girls because of this. Also he made fun of me for being poor, that is having a beat up car, eating cheap food, etc. What a douche. My brother met a girl in person that he had known for 4 to 5 years online, during which time they had kind of had an online relationship. She had brought a friend with her to meet him, and while they were sitting around a table awkwardly making conversation, with my brother apparently quite shocked at how bad she looked in person compared to how she looked online, and having absolutely no interest in her other than as friends, the girl sent her friend a message saying, "OMG, get me out of here, he's looking at me like he wants to jump me," but she accidentally sent it to my brother. What ensued was likely incredibly painful to be part of. My brother showed her his phone and looked at her in disgust. I actually worked with this lady at the time. She was good looking and very flirtatious. Most importantly, we both played World of Warcraft at its prime. She ended up inviting me to join her server, and being a then horny 20 something, I, of course, joined up. We played for a time and had a good PvP group going, her regulars. Of course she was still flirty with me in game, and I was back, all in group chat. Either way, we had some great times together slaying players in PvP. Summer comes and it's a company barbecue. I find out she is bringing one of our PvP partners to the event. Cool. It was her husband. A cop. I've been virtually exting her in game in front of him for 3 months. What happened next? I was mid-20s and she was mid-30s, so it wasn't weird between us, but her husband was mid-40s. So he probably thought I was ducking hilarious. I ended up quitting my job to unrelated events, and I awkwardly kept in touch with the husband because he went to the same racetrack I did. I mean duck. I couldn't escape my embarrassment. Maybe not regret it, but it gave me years of depression. I met my best friend through Minecraft, never made friends in this, and I just wanted to play with someone. I have no idea why. So I complimented this girl's skin. We started talking. She was American, I'm Polish, and my English sucked. We moved to Skype, and at first I mostly typed, but later on she started teaching me English somehow by talking with me. She was 1 year older. We knew each other for almost a year, and I was staying up all night just to talk to her and her friends that she introduced to me. She was also depressed. So we talked with each other, and she was the first person that truly listened to me. We had plans of visiting each other, and then our mutual friend told me she committed suicide. 4 years passed by, and now at least I can talk about it and not cry. Still miss her very much though. I used to play Counter-Strike 1.6 with one of the funniest and most lively guys I've ever met. He was a linchpin for half a dozen other guys in a friendship group that he welcomed me into. They lived about 200 miles south of me in the south of England. For several years we talked and played games together. He would brighten my day. I've never loved a friend like I loved him. Before I met him I had no idea he was sick. Like, really sick. He had muscular dystrophy for which there is no cure, and is a progressively debilitating disease. His form started by paralyzing his legs, and working its way up to his arms, and eventually his lungs. It wasn't until a few days before I had arranged for my first ever trip down there that he told me about it. It didn't faze me in the slightest, it made me want to go see him even more. I only saw him in real life twice before he died about a year later. I regret that I couldn't go to his funeral. It was too far away and I couldn't make it. We went to a convention. and he drunkenly told me and my boyfriend that he wished we weren't together so he could sleep with me. It was very awkward, and he's lucky my boyfriend, now husband, is a patient man.